With the body work out of the way, we can finally move on to the engine, something I have been looking forward to. As with any part that comes together like this, you just want to make sure it's nice and flat so there's less of a seam. And I will forewarn you, there will be some continuity errors in this, because halfway through the build I went out and bought a bigger cutting mat. I wasn't really paying attention to that when I spliced all these videos together. This will be assembled in the standard order that you assemble an engine. I did not assemble it in that order, and you could easily tell. This has had about 10-15 minutes to dry. Then I just go in and I sand down that seam. When you get to the point where you can't feel it with your fingernail anymore, paint will hide it, so you're good to go. This had a really loose fit and it took a lot of time to get it aligned just right. This engine is aluminum. For anything that I paint any shade of silver, I like to lay down a black coat underneath. That does two things for us. It deepens the silver color, and if you do a light coat, all the nooks and crannies stay dark and it gives it a more realistic look. And I will be doing wiring on this, so I'm just drilling out the holes before I do any paint. In the past I've tried to drill after paint and it chipped and flaked off the paint, so I'm just doing it beforehand to avoid all that. Here is my little tip of the day. I like to use 100% pure acetone nail polish remover from the Dollar Tree. The serrations inside the cap, I kind of do a old washboard motion just to knock all the paint out there further, and it's acetone, so it's going to clean your brushes really nice. There it is, right there, new mats. To lock these plug wires into the bottom of the valve cover, I just put a little bit of bend in it. That sort of locks them in place so you can't pull them out. I then later go in and do a little dab of super glue and make them permanent. I also did a bit of painting off screen. I mentioned it before, but painting is very boring and I don't like watching videos of people just painting, so I try to avoid that the most I can. For the upper intake, I painted that in white aluminium. For the exhaust bits, I left most of it the factory silver color that the parts were molded in. Then I just went over it with steel. And on the hot side of the exhaust system, I done a dry brush of brown just to simulate the rust that these things see because they are cast iron. On the oval exhaust on the outside, I will drill directly into the center, then I will just rock the drill bit back and forth to kind of dig it out. And if you pay close enough attention, you can not only see the light bulb in the upper right corner, but the unpainted chassis and body bits in the upper left corner. Remember in the last video where I showed you that painted? Again, continuity. At this point, when you look down inside the exhaust, you'll see very rough cuts. It'll be nasty, there'll be burrs and scratches. Tamiya Extra Thin is a solvent, and it works by melting plastic together to create an actual weld, so to speak. In that sense, it also works very well at smoothing out rough plastic. I was looking at the reference photos and I noticed the back of the timing covers were black. So I popped this off and then just sanded it down to the bare plastic to simulate that the best I could. Simulate. That's the word, right? Simulate. This is another one of those fiddly bits that did not fit well. For the longest time I thought that these were actually headers. They're not. They're cast iron manifolds with a heat shield on them. For the heat shield, I sprayed them with titanium silver, and then I just went over the edges and kind of brushed it back into it, feathered it, just to simulate a burning sensation on the cast iron. And I'm zooming in here because I thought it was kind of cool. There's a little notch in there for the starter. I had broke this sway bar trying to sand down the seam on it, but this is a testament to how well some things fit in Tamiya kits. Look at that. You can't even tell that was ever broke. And it'll be covered up completely later, so you won't even see it anyway. I wasn't paying attention when I cut these off the sprue, and I wasn't really sure which way the pins needed to face to make sure the brakes were aligned right. So I'm kind of just sticking them in there and letting them just float, hang out. And I'll glue them in later when I know that they're right. When I was putting these headers on, when I was putting the manifolds on, I almost lost my mind because they would not line up. As you can see, the turbos, they're staggered, and right here on this wastegate, it's also staggered. They're supposed to be like that, and I spent so much time trying to align them, and I could never get it to fit, so I just decided to go with it. And the wastegate will get installed later because it has another bracket from the body that it needs to go onto. For the plug wires, all I did was just tuck them up underneath the coils, and it held them in place just fine. I had the wastegate set in there just for the photo op. With all things being done, thank you again for watching.